Hi, everyone. It's me, Krylios, Team Racine Productions MC and producer. And joining me today is Elizabeth McCain. Welcome.
Hello, Krylios. How are you?
I am doing fabulous. How are you, Elizabeth?
Good, thanks.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, it is great to have you here with us. I'm so happy you're here. So I want to kick this all off with just, having our audience get to know you a little bit. Just introduce yourself and tell me a little bit about your background.
Sure, happy to do that. Well, I'm Elizabeth McCain, and I live in Tacoma Park, Maryland. Have been in the DC area for many, many years. And everything that I do professionally and personally is all about the power of story. So I'm a
Mm,
storyteller and solo performer, and I have a one-woman show
mm.
coming up on the 13th, this Sunday. It's called Porch Stories, Outrageous Confessions of a Southern Lesbian.
Oh, I love that. Oh my goodness. That's such a great title.
Yeah,
First of
thank
all,
you.
I love it so much. I'm a storyteller myself, so it's always great to connect with others who
Oh,
live for the power of stories, who live through
oh
the
yeah,
narrative, who see the
yeah,
world through those eyes. It's always great to have a conversation with someone else like
yeah.
that. And the first thing I want to know is, tell me a story. It's so interesting that one, your book, as well as this one woman show, is encapsulated in being the southern lesbian. I think that's something that's really really interesting to look into and to talk
Yeah,
about.
yeah.
What was it like growing up queer in the South, and how has that kind of shaped how you move through the world today?
That's really good question. It's a loaded question.
It is a loaded question. It is a loaded
Try
question.
to simplify it. So, first of all, when I grew up, the word queer was a negative term. So, I wouldn't say that I
Yeah.
grew up queer, right?
Oh,
So,
true, true.
generational thing. But I
Yeah.
grew up in a small town in Northeast Mississippi. And although I loved my family and friends, I was bored to death in that little
Uh,
town. And I wanted to get out and see the world. I wanted to live in a big city. So that was my first inkling that I was different from my little friends. And even in elementary school, they would all talk about, wanting to go to the state university, Ole Miss or Mississippi State, and be in a sorority and get married and have babies. And I have this scene in my show where I say to my friend at like 8 years old, I go, she brought her little baby doll over and said, I want to get married and have babies when I grow up. I have these two dolls in the show. And I say, I prefer the modern day Barbie doll. And I have a Barbie doll with rainbow outfit
oh.
on. And I say, Linda, I do not want any crying, peeing babies. I'm going to live in a big city. Don't you have any ambition? And
Mm.
that it kind of started like that. Like I wanted to have a career. I wanted to get
Mhm.
out of the South
Yeah.
and live in a big city. So I didn't come out until I was 30. I dated lots of
Mm.
fellas
Oh,
in
you
my
did.
20s. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then,
Question, and what was that like? You, as a teenager, I dated women, like girls. We were kids,
yeah.
So I've never had the experience of being an adult and having to feel like I had to date the opposite sex. What was like?
Ah,
What was navigating that like? And did you do it in the South as well as I guess
oh,
Maryland is
yeah.
still the South, but as well as here? And what was the
Yeah,
difference like with that?
I did. I had,
Mm-hmm.
I dated as a teenager, and in my
Mm-hmm.
20s, I had a college
Mm-hmm.
boyfriend for 3 years. And then I
Mm,
dated several fellas in DC in my 20s. And
mm.
actually, this is a funny story. It was my last boyfriend that made the suggestion. Um, and we're still friends to this day, David.
Yeah.
I have that story in my show too.
Yeah.
He said, you're such a feminist. feminist and you love going to these women's dinner parties and goddess circles. Do you think that you'd like to become a lesbian?
Not a feminist. That's hilarious.
And it was during a very passionate moment that he said that.
Wow. And so during this time, were you aware of the fact that, because we know who we are, but were you aware of the fact that you were a lesbian? And did you ever think that eventually oh, wow.
Oh, no. No, in fact, I came out as bi first. And I suppose there's still a bi part of me, although I'm very lesbian identified now, because, I've been with my partner for 21 years and came out in the mid 90s when there was a vibrant lesbian culture. But no, at first, when he said that, I was kind of offended, I thought, because I thought he was pushing me away and, because I was kind of falling for that guy. And I had some decent relationships with guys. So, I've had a lot of time to think about this during the pandemic. And as I wrote my book, which came out at the beginning of the pandemic. And I really think that for me, we all have a different story and we have similarities and differences. For me, it was a bit of a choice, right? I think it's more about loving a soul. And so for me, it was okay with men. It was a little bit more of a deep emotional connection with women that was more satisfying than with men.
That is so interesting to hear. All right, so tell me, I guess growing up in the South, and you had your thoughts on so many things. Is that why you kind of gravitated to storytelling? Be always like leaning into the story of something. A way to escape, almost in a certain sense. To find,
It was a way of connecting because, to be honest, there wasn't a whole lot to do in our little town. It was a tiny town, Okolona, Mississippi, of 2,800 people. And my dad was a big storyteller and my aunties. So my mom and her sisters had this summer cottage up in Tennessee in the mountains. And we would go up there every summer. And it was my Aunt Libba. Oh, God, I loved her so much. And I'm named after her. And she'd have like a scotch in one hand and a cigarette in another. Oh, baby girl, come sit by me. I'll tell you stories, girl. I'll tell you stories. Your mama doesn't know.
I love that so much.
So I just sit on the porch spellbound for hours listening to Mama and Aunt Libba and Aunt Franny tell their stories about their childhood and when they were in school. And it was just in my blood, I think, as a Southerner. And so then when we lived in Asheville, North Carolina for a few years. And that's when I found storytelling as an art form. I took a workshop from a wonderful storyteller there, Connie Reagan Blake, who's still a mentor of mine. Then when we moved back to DC in 2007, I found out about, it was then called Speakeasy DC. It's now called Story District.
Oh my God. So we work with Story District. I love Story District. I've performed there quite a few times, hosted a couple Story District events. And we have one upcoming this summer. Outspoken. So yes.
I was in a Pride show a few years ago.
Oh, well, I love that. See, we've been crossing the same path.
We just missed each other, but we're in the community.
Love it.
Yeah. So then I found that as an art form, and actually my profession was as a psychotherapist and spiritual counselor. So my main thing has been spiritual counseling, a little energy healing, and I'm also an interfaith minister. And so the storytelling, I just sort of integrated into all of that to help people, like reframe their difficult stories and share their joyful stories. And especially now as we're coming out of this pandemic, knock on wood, right? We hope. Good.
Listen.
And I just think we're all so longing for more connection and to come back together with our friends and family members and have meaningful connections in a sense of community.
Certainly, I agree. I agree. So, what's that feeling like on stage? Talk to me about your first time on stage and the feeling that you get every time you step on stage to sing.
Oh,
Yeah.
oh, what a great question. I love being on stage.
Mhm,
Although I'm a little shy socially, I am truly an extrovert and I do love people.
mhm.
Um, there I am.
Yeah.
That was right before the pandemic, y'all. That was the last show I did at Howard Community College on March 9th, 2020.
Okay. Okay.
So yeah, but I love being on stage. I did a little bit of community theater in DC. We did gay and lesbian Gilbert and Sullivan musicals on Capitol
Mhm,
Hill. I did some of that,
mhm,
and I love theater in high school. Didn't really do it in college. And then when I found Story District or Speakeasy DC, as they said, I knew about it.
mhm.
And what happened is they needed another lesbian for their it wasn't a pride show, it was something else. It was at Atlas. And I think Amy Sedman contacted me or
Mhm.
someone and said, we need another lesbian for the
That's me.
show. So that's back when there weren't many lesbians doing storytelling. Now there are lots of lesbians and
Yeah.
queer women, right?
Yes.
So that was probably in 2011, 2010, 2011.
Mhm.
And I mean, it needed to happen like the next 3 days.
Yeah.
So I told one of my coming out stories about my last boyfriend and my first girlfriend.
That's a good
And
one.
it was
That's
a
a
hit.
good
It was
one.
a hit.
Yes, I love that. I love that. Maybe I should do watch some other show. I've been thinking about what I would do with Story District this year. I've done two shows where I told two different versions of a story, but from different perspectives, based
Ah,
on what the theme was for each of those. And I haven't really given thought to what my next one would be if called upon or if I decided. But talking about my last girlfriend sounds like a pretty good story. She broke up with me. I'll never forget it when she broke up with me. And she said, we've been together for some months now, and we don't really kiss, we don't make out, you don't really touch me. And at this point, we were like getting to like 16, 17. So people expect certain things, I guess, at that age. And when you
yeah.
can just like let's hold hands when you're 14, by 16, 17, it's getting, people want more. So she was like, I just think we were better as friends. And it was at that moment I was like, oh, I guess I can't carry on the route
Oh,
any longer. It's like I'm not able to lean into the roost any longer with anybody else and string them along because I'm just not gonna be up to it, and it just wasn't gonna work out. Entering adulthood, things had to really change, I guess. So that's something interesting.
wow. That's interesting. So did your girlfriend know that you were gay? Did she help you come out?
She didn't necessarily. I mean, I guess there were rumors. People would always probably say things, but
Yeah.
we just were not intimate at all, and we were together for
Oh.
quite a while. And I left because I lived in Jamaica at the time, and I remember I left the summer and I came. I went to Atlanta for like the whole summer from like June to
Oh.
September. And so when I got back in September, I was gone for a long time and it didn't really bother me. It was like nothing off my, but she came back and she was very upset that I was gone for so long, and I made no effort to, and it was years ago too. It's not like video calling was a thing. So, that wasn't
Right.
a thing. But
Right.
we were together for a long time. There was a big chunk of it. We had no much interaction, and she was like, "This is not gonna work," And at that point, I realized it wasn't gonna work for me either. So it was all good. It was all good. Tell me, did you ever feel pressured to lean into that type of Southern belle, type of
Yeah.
life and really conform to that? Talk to me about how you had to get around that, or did you get around it? Talk to me about that.
Yeah, that's a good question. I would say I've kind of integrated that part into me
Mhm,
as a
mhm,
lesbian, as a storyteller, just as a
mhm,
human being, because it was a part of my childhood and my teenage years. And I have a story in the show and in my book about my parents wanting me to be a debutante, to have a
mhm,
debutante ball, and And down there, they're actually called coming out balls.
Oh, wow. Yes, yes. You know, you're coming out to society. Yes.
But I refused to have one. I just thought it was, you know, I knew I was going to leave Mississippi eventually. But yeah, there was this emphasis on, my father wanted me to, you know, meet a proper wealthy Southern gentleman and get married. And my mother wanted that too. And I think that's why it was so hard for them and for me, because my parents were older and very traditional and very religious. So when I came out at 31, after dating all these guys and having a college boyfriend, but you know, things just never quite got to that commitment stage, or they get to the commitment stage, but not to the marriage stage. So it was a big shock for everyone. So then when I came out in DC, although there was a very vibrant lesbian community and we had lesbian bars back then, I mean, there's like one or two now, but there was a lot going on in the mid 90s, and you know, we go dancing at the Phase and other places, and but I remember feeling like, oh, do I fit into the lesbian community? Because I'd go into these bars. Like, I remember the first time I went into the Phase, you know, I probably had like a little mini skirt on and my lipstick and my little purse, and some tough looking butch dyke came up to me and said, what are you doing here? Are you spying on us? I was like, no, I'm a card carrying member of this place. I'm a member of the tribe.
Yes, I love it.
You know? But back then, there were not that many lipstick lesbian. I'm a femme, I'm a lipstick lesbian.
Yes.
I had to read about those different types. Eventually, I met some other femmes, but at first it was like, oh my goodness, I don't look like other lesbians. How am I going to fit into this culture?
Tell me, were there any in that time, I guess, was there anyone you ever looked at on television, in the media, on movies that you felt you identified with in any way? Any lesbian woman?
Yeah, well, I loved Ellen, of course.
Oh, okay, yes,
funny.
yes.
She was funny and Southern. She was from New Orleans, but Ellen's kind of butch, right? I'm not butch.
Yeah.
Ain't nothing butch about me, you know. So it's like, well, and then the L word, you know, the original L word.
Yes, the original.
Do you watch
the revival one too?
Yeah, no? I've seen them all. And, lots of drama. Very entertaining.
Yes. Okay, great. So how did you find your footing in the community as you came out, especially at I guess a later age for people coming out, I suppose? How did you kind of find your footing and balance within the community and, you know, find your own space and niche?
Yeah. Well, it was a gradual process. First of all, I found a lesbian therapist, a woman who was about 25 years older than I, and she had been out for a long time, but she had been married before. And so she had done the heterosexual thing. So that helped. Yeah. And then I joined a coming out support group at Whitman Walker. That was really fun. And I met other lesbians, and, you know, we would go out to dinner and dancing like every weekend. And then I eventually started volunteering for Whitman Walker, leading coming out support groups. Okay. So that helped a lot. And then down the road from there, I started singing in the lesbian and gay chorus in DC when there was one.
Okay, wonderful.
Yeah. So I found my lesbian tribe.
I love it. I love that. All right, let's talk about the book. How long did it take to write this, and how long have you, how long were you thinking about it before actually putting pen to paper or finger to keyboard?
Yeah. Well, I thought about it for a while. I always wanted to write a book. Well, not always, but I would say in my 30s, I started thinking, wow, I just have so many. Oh, there it is. Thank you. I have so many unusual, entertaining and difficult coming out stories, and stories from childhood, and stories of, you know, dating and lesbian culture. So I started to get the idea, probably 15 years ago or more. And then I had a lot of loss. At first I thought I was going to write a self-help book or a book on spirituality and loss. But then I thought, well, there's a lot of that is already out there. That's kind of a heavy topic, because I really believe in the combination of like embracing all our feelings. Like the more
Yeah.
that we can grieve, the more that we can feel joy, right? It's all about opening the heart. So, so I wanted to tell my difficult stories of when my mother died and some family drama and estrangement. And I wanted to be able to honestly write about that and write about my healing process. And I have these really funny, entertaining, wacky, outrageous stories that comes from being Southern, I think.
Yeah,
in my blood, it's in the culture. So
I love that.
Yeah, it was actually in Rehoboth Beach a few years ago when I performed there. This older woman came up to me and she said, "You have got to write a book. You know that, don't you?" And I said, "Oh yeah, I know. It's just going to be so hard and so long." And she was like, "Well, not really. You've got all these great stories. I assume you have a script to your show, right?" And I said, "Yeah, I have a 25-page script." So it took me, even with all that, it's still quite a process to write a memoir. So it took me about 3.5 years. And I'm doing other.
And so while writing, you had to really revisit these stories, revisit these memories. Do you think while preparing and doing and writing the book, did you get to kind of self-analyze certain things, really just really having to take a look at those things, reanalyze them, what they meant then, what they meant now, and what was that process like for you to be able to live in those moments again, put them, to paper, and have like a real discussion about something that maybe you probably hadn't even thought about in so many years? What was that like, having to re-explore those stories?
It was a very rich process, and sometimes it was difficult. And I will say I got support. I was very fortunate. I had a very good energy healer that I would go. She would do it's called soul lightning acupressure. She would do process acupressure with me. So as I would relive the stories, and of course I had done a lot of therapy as well. So I thought I had processed as much as I could. I thought surely it won't be that. But no, when you're writing for the public to put it out there in the world, and I really wanted to revisit the stories from a place of my heart and soul, and from a place of empowerment and appreciating all of the stories. Instead of, I didn't want to come from a place of being a victim or feeling sorry for myself. Not that I didn't have those moments. I certainly did. And that's when I help with, okay, let me release this. Let me reframe this story. And I really believe that it's worth it to revisit even our most painful stories and to get help when we need it. And then appreciate, what are the gifts? What are the lessons that I've learned from all this? And how can I use this as a vehicle to help other people, to contribute to the culture in general?
Certainly. So Elizabeth, tell me, what lessons have you learned about yourself during this process?
A lot. I have learned to value myself and appreciate and accept and celebrate that I'm a very emotional woman. And I can just ask my spouse, Marie, about that. A little drama around the house.
Yes,
But now that I'm older, and it's not that we're totally out of the pandemic, but it certainly feels more positive, like we are emerging more. I feel like I'm stronger, I'm more courageous. I've learned to really appreciate loss and grief as part of a spiritual journey of just cracking my heart wide open to appreciate all of life, to love deeper and be bolder, and to be of service to my community.
Awesome. I love that. Elizabeth, I had so much fun getting to chat with you today. Before I let you go, how can people pick up your book? How can they follow you, keep up with what you're doing, and let everyone know again how they can catch your show this Sunday?
Well, come this Sunday, the 13th at 5:00 at Atlas Performing Arts Center, part of the Intersections Festival. It's atlasarts.org for tickets. my website, I have two. If you would like to purchase a book for a signed copy, you can go to my website, lesbianbelletells.com or elizabethmccain.com, and I'll be glad to sign it and mail it to you. And yes, I do some social media. You can follow me at a Lesbian Belle Tells Facebook page and Instagram, but I will tell you, I'm not on there all the time. I like to take breaks because that can get overwhelming.
Yes. Awesome. Well, the viewers, we will have those links in the description below, so you can go, certainly. So you can go ahead and check out everything Elizabeth has.
Can I mention one more thing I'm going to do?
Ahead.
Starting, I think the end of May or beginning of June, I'm going to start offering workshops on queer storytelling. And what I'm going to do, what I hope to do, if on somebody's patio or porch, if you get a group of 12 to 15 people together, then I will teach people how to tell stories from a place of empowerment and to connect with their community. And then I'll teach people how to start a storytelling group that you can meet with. I'll tell you what the guidelines are, how to organize it, so that people can really sustain their sense of community. Because I think that's what we're all hungering for, is like, because we've kind of lost some social skills.
Yeah, certainly.
So it's like, okay, whoa, people, okay. I love people, but wow, this is kind of overwhelming.
Yes.
So that's something I'm really looking forward to as well. So people can just contact me for that.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Elizabeth, for joining me today. It has been such a pleasure.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun, Krylios. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And I hope we can do this again some other time, and hopefully I see you in person as well soon, since our paths will cross.
Yes, they will. I feel certain of that.
Certainly. Well, thank you so much to everyone watching. Please follow Team Racing Productions at Team Racing on all forms of social media. Like, comment, and subscribe. But most of all, thank you for watching. Bye, everyone.
Bye.